Hello guys and welcome to another Fyxshion Radio here again with Shinja, and we're going to be talking about a really cool ass anime called JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. So Shinja, will you tell us a little bit about this anime?
Sure. So JoJo's Bizarre Adventure starts off with two, let's call them protagonists. Like one is more of a protagonist than the other, but they're both very intricate or important for the whole story. The first character is Jonathan Joestar, and we'll be following him through most of the first arc. He grew up with in a wealthy family. You know, he had everything served to him on a platter. He's a little bit spoiled, you know, typical rich kid.
Yeah.
This is all set in the UK, by the way.
Yeah,
the
England.
Proper Englishman.
Yeah.
You know. And then the other character is Dio Brando. He is the son of this like despicable man. Like he's just a thief, and like he just rummages around and like basically scum of the earth. I'm pretty sure he abused his wife too, and he abused Dio as a kid.
Yeah.
Like one day Dio's dad dies, but before he dies, like on his deathbed, he tells him of a man, and this man happens to be Jonathan's father. Dio's father, as like before he had Dio, he somehow helped Jonathan's father, and now like Jonathan's father owed Dio's father a debt, and so the two grew up together, and there's like a rivalry between them, and the rest of the story throughout all the arcs is basically just how these two fates have been intertwined forever, just because of one ancient relic that they found, which is a mask, and it forever altered their future.
Indeed. There's this is like another type of shonen, a very manly shonen.
It's like, this is like what every man kind of fantasizes of, like kind of being in a way. Like it's ridiculously muscular.
Yeah, ripped.
Yeah, and like super, like I don't want to say like some of it, like some people are turned off by it just because of how like really big and muscular the guys are.
Yeah, they are.
Like some people are saying it's like, dude, this kind of looks gay, you know?
Yeah.
But it's interesting. I more like so the first arc is Jonathan, and this is set back like, you know, in the early 1900s. Is really proper posh UK England, you know, so
Yeah.
It's very like everyone wants to be like a gentleman sort of thing. So like,
Yes.
Jonathan's like the proper gentleman, and so is Dio in a way. But it's like, not only is this guy like super ripped, but he's like a man's man, you know. He's a like proper gentleman. It's like, whoa, like you gotta respect him. Like I never wanted to be more like anyone else. Like when I saw Jonathan, I was like, dude, like that is kind of like what I aspire to be.
Yeah, Jonathan is a gentleman. Let's just say it like that.
Yeah.
By this arc, there were no stand. These things were called Hamon, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah, so JoJo, they had different powers, sort of. It's all kind of linked to the same thing, sort of. Like, so the first arc, they introduced Hamon, which I always found funny because it sounds like the Spanish word jamón.
Hamon, yeah.
But, which means ham.
Yeah.
But it's correct me if I'm wrong. I can't remember too much, but it was like some sort of Indian breathing technique, the way that it started. But basically, the whole idea was that, like, by altering the way that you breathe, you absorb the sun's power, and so you can use that to do superhuman and supernatural things with your body.
More like chakra and ki.
Yeah, and so it's interesting because the anime starts off like kind of like a vampire hunting sort of anime. So like when I first saw this, I thought it was gonna be something like Castlevania.
Yeah, exactly. You know? Yeah.
Because it's like, oh wow, like they introduce vampires, and then there's like this whole like sun sort of thing. I was like, is this like Django or something? You know, is this like Castlevania? But no, then they completely ditched the whole thing. And they go to stands, and it's kind of the same wavelength. The way they explained it later, it's kind of like, oh, like people with like elevated or like great
kind of like
life
evolved.
Energy. Yeah, people with great life energy have stands, and basically it's like, oh, the reason why these people have stands, or like Jonathan's descendants have stands, is because they learned Hamon and like the breathing technique like naturally passed down through genetics. So it's like, oh yeah, they naturally had a higher like life energy or life force, so like of course they'd have stands. Now again, in the future they kind of scrapped that explanation.
Totally. And the only the only character that went in both ways, that was the transition to the Hamon understand, was Joseph, right?
Yeah, Joseph. Which that arc is like interesting of its own because again, it's like there's like two different explanations for the reasoning that stands came to life, or like why they were triggered. And it's weird.
Yeah,
it's not called JoJo's Bizarre Adventure for no reason. It is indeed
bizarre.
A bizarre adventure.
So let's see. There's at least there's more parts. There's part 1, of course, which is with Jonathan. Part 2 with Joseph. Part 3 with Jotaro, right? Part 4 with Josuke. And part 5, which is this
Giorno Giovanna.
Yeah, Giovanna. So let's go back to the of course I've been watching JoJo's Bizarre Adventure back in the day. Back in, I think it was 2012-13 when I first started the OVAs back in the 90s, which was the Stardust Crusaders OVA.
Yeah, it would be part 3 nowadays.
Yeah, exactly. It started like that, like just an OVA of the crew. And then later on in the 2000 they made 5 OVAs of that Stardust Crusaders, like wrapping up that arc, in which they totally jumped everything that had happened, which I really do not know why they did that back in the day, but then I still got interested.
Well, like all the OVAs were kind of promotion for the games that were coming out.
Yeah. And I think you and me have one of those games.
Not
Dreamcast game though.
See, I was always confused because I see the clips from the old like OVA, and I thought there was an anime, but I couldn't find anything other than like part 3, and I was like, what?
Exactly. So. Then I went to the research. Right back then when I was watching these OVAs, Jonathan, which was part 1, and then the Joseph, which was part 2, were already aired. And then I was like, all right, let's just watch this from the beginning. Let's just do this. And once I watched it, I was like, man, this totally reminds me of Fist of the North Star so much. And of course, it comes from that. So.
It's like the same Is it the same creator or is it just the same art director?
I think I think it's art director, but maybe not pretty sure about it. I think it's totally
They're
different.
both really similar,
Yeah,
and
totally
the
similar.
fact that they're both like man's man.
Yeah, it's
you
totally
know?
manly. So there's yeah, the inspiration is still there from Kenshiro and Fist of the North Star and JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, but they're totally completely different things. I mean, there's some similarities, yeah, but it's so different in a way that the story develops in all these generations, because these generations they mean something, and it's chronological order. They need to how do I say it? Se me fue la palabra. It's this connection. This connection with the actual protagonist, even though Jotaro is not part of the Joestar family, which I think that was the one that broke and separated that kind of family.
Well, so weird.
Yeah.
Because you know, like they don't. You sometimes think it. Okay, so the way the anime goes, the way you kind of expect it to go is like from like father to father to father or something. Like each one is like, or father to son to grandson or whatever.
Yeah.
Like that, it would keep going in that line, but it starts deviating a little bit. It gets a little weird. It's like, oh yeah, it's like, so Jonathan is like the beginning, and then Joseph is technically the grandson. So we skipped like the actual like second generation per se.
Exactly.
And then from Joseph it goes to Jotaro, and that also skipped the generation because Joseph had Holly, and Holly married a Japanese man, and it was their kid that had Jotaro. And then Josuke is like Joseph's illegitimate son.
Yeah.
And so, and he's more of a direct descendant in that case.
Yes, that one, yes.
But what I like about the whole thing is like, you know, it's all passing through like time. You get to see like there's this whole theme of like each of these Joestars, they're all very chivalrous and manly, but in their own way, and it all like represents kind of like what was manly for that era, you know. So like in the early 1900s in the UK, the proper man, I don't think it even was 1900s, it might have been like 1800s, like late 1800s. But in any case, the proper man was like a gentleman. So like Jonathan like was that like embodiment of like what the perfect gentleman would be. And then we go over to Joseph, and he's now like a American New Yorker sort of guy. Like he's just kind of like crazy, you know, stereotypical kind of like I don't want to say thug, but like, you know, he kind of just did what he wanted.
Yeah.
But he had a righteous sense of justice. And so that's kind of like how like they portrayed him in that like era, where like it was cool to like kind of just do what you want, but you did all those crazy things in the end for something good, you know? Like you beat up some guys because they like hurt your grandma or something. You wouldn't just beat them up for no reason.
Exactly.
You know? And then you move on to like Jotaro, and he's like another like weird instance where like he's basically Yakuza. Like
literally
like a high school Yakuza. Yeah. But again, he's like super manly and respectable, and he doesn't hurt like random people. Like he does bad stuff, like he smokes even though he's underage. but
He doesn't look underage.
No, he does not look underage at all. But he's technically he's younger than 18. So
yeah, he is. Yeah, he's like 16. Yeah, like
yeah,
that.
it's so weird to think that 16, maybe 17.
Yeah.
But yeah, he smokes. He's got guns. He's in jail. You know,
he locked
but
himself up in jail though.
Yeah. Again, see that he has the right to say he doesn't want to hurt anyone. He calls his mom a bitch, but he loves her.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, he protects other people. It's really weird.
Yes.
But
yes.
again, that's kind of like that period where in Japan the Yakuza were seen as somewhat honorable, or some of them, you know. So it was just that image.
Exactly.
And then the same thing was Josuke in a way. Josuke is very similar to Jotaro, except he's not as manly as Jotaro.
Yeah, he's like the modern teenage, kind of like today.
I don't want to say modern. It was like late 90s.
Late 90s, exactly. Yeah. Like the ghetto.
And then
the ghetto.
Yeah. No, suburban is weird. But
it has a mix. It has a mix.
And then we got Giorno now, and Giorno is Italian mobster almost, but he's the profesh looking Italian mobster and trying to protect the city in a way.
Yeah.
He does bad stuff, but
totally bad stuff.
he wants to prevent kids from getting into drugs. He's against drugs. He's against killing random people. There's this sense of righteousness to it, and it passes on through each generation.
Yes.
It's really interesting to see how it changes depending on what time period we're in and where they grew up in. It's not just what time period, also where the surroundings where they grew up in.
Exactly. Who's your favorite character, Shinja, of any generation? Just pick at least one.
It has to be Joseph Joestar.
Joseph, yeah.
I have a hard time between choosing young and old Joseph. I freaking love young Joseph, but I love old Joseph.
He's a lot funnier.
English phrases and stuff.
Oh
there's an
God.
Yeah, there's an entire compilation on YouTube of all of the English phrases he said, and it is the funniest thing I have probably ever seen. I just love quoting him all the time. Oh my God,
yeah,
son of a bitch. Holy shit.
Oh yeah,
it's so funny. So yeah, and he the thing about I love about Joseph is that he always has this sense of humor that's consistent no matter how young or old he is. Even when he got old, he never really changed. He physically he looked different. He looked like an Indiana Jones character.
Yes, totally. Yeah.
But he was still the funny young character from years ago. He still had the same kind of wit. He was still very clever and but very smart at the same time, he wasn't just a stupid character either, but he liked to joke around a lot.
Yes. So yeah, my favorite one should be, if I would have pick a Joe, it will be Josuke. But if I would pick another character that is not a Joe, it will be Polnareff. Do you remember him?
Oh yeah.
I love the guy. I totally love the guy and his freaking stand, dude. And the way he fights also is just amazing. Oh my gosh, this guy is the I don't think there's a guy like this in another anime. I think this is and I know that there's similarities in another other characters, but this one is just I totally identify with this one because of his styles of saying stuff and the style that he actually fights, because he's like more like a fencing type of fighting with his stand. Of course, his stand has a sword, but it is so cool because I have like not all the JoJo's Bizarre Adventure games, but I have 2 of them on the PlayStation 3. One is All-Star Battle, and the other one is Eyes of Heaven. I use them all the time, and I always win with him, and I know his combos, and I'm like, this is my dude. Like, legit, I totally love this dude.
If I had to choose one non-Joe character, I would probably go with Speedwagon.
Oh yeah.
Because the way he like, the way he like kind of came into the story, that's like interesting because he's literally just like an unimportant side character at the beginning, but then he becomes so important to like the plot, especially in season 2. It's just like crazy, and like he's like in the like but yeah, it was just so funny seeing him. Like, he was a crooked character, and then just by seeing Jonathan, he has a change of heart. I was like, oh my god. He's like the ultimate bro.
So best what is your favorite fight about, at least choose 1 or 2? I mean, there's a lot of fights in the, on this one. They're totally different fights. They're not just all fists. They're all, most of them are strategy also. And yeah, go ahead.
Oh, it's hard.
Yeah, it is.
To choose. Oh man, it's like, because I have quite a few. One of the fights that I liked was Joseph versus it was one of the Pillar Men, specifically the one that could do the wind turbine thing.
Oh yeah, I totally hate that
the
dude.
Tornadoes.
Yeah, he looks really feminine. Let me tell you that.
I don't know about that. It's just because he's naked.
Yeah, well, I don't know.
But I like the fight mostly because just how like it was more than just a normal fight. There was a lot of like chariots involved and right now. But again, it was another one of those like Joseph fights in general. It's always the aha, I gotcha sort of aspect to them. Like, it seems like he's like at a disadvantage, and then he another fight that I liked is probably they're in is it season 3? Yeah, the 3rd arc. It was Jotaro and I forget what his name is, but he's like a game guy, and they're playing like on a NES or Super Nintendo, and they're playing the race game.
Yes. I remember that one.
So it was just interesting to see them like, instead of actually fighting, they're like, okay, we're gonna play a video game, and that's how we're gonna settle this fight.
Yeah.
And it's actually him and like that guy and his brother that I like. They're kind of like the same, I don't want to say episode, but it happened like back to back. And they're both like game based.
Yes.
And then of course I love all the fights against Dio. Like,
yeah, those are like the best.
Yeah. Well, it's just every time like would use his stand, it's kind of memorable in a way.
Mm-hmm, yes.
Especially once you understand what his stand actually is. That's when it like the fights get way more interesting.
Yes. So let's see. I think there was one in Stardust Crusaders where I think it was Yeah, they were against a blind guy in the desert. I don't know if you remember that one.
Yep, yeah, I know what
Yeah.
you're talking about.
Yeah.
I think that was like when they actually used Iggy for the first time or something like that.
Yes. Yeah. That's the one.
Because I remember a scene with Iggy where I was like, "Oh shit, okay."
Yeah, and I think it was like a
Iggy's
water stand, like water.
Yeah, the whole gimmick of the stand. Spoiler alert. I mean, this whole talk has been spoilers.
Yeah. Anyway,
But
I just...
the whole gimmick of the stand is that basically the guy can feel the vibrations in the sand, so wherever you're standing at, he can like send his water stand to attack you, and it like enters your body and kills you from the inside or something like that.
That one was like, oh my gosh, I was like, man, the stakes are high here, and they're like always like thinking so much, like, oh my gosh, and I love these kinds of fighting where they like when your heroes need to think a lot, and they need to like, okay, we need to do this and that, but wait, it's not working. Like you see, like they get an advantage at some point, but then the opponent's like, wait, what? And that's why I like these kinds of fights, and especially this one. And I do not remember what actually happened to the blind guy. I don't know if they like beat him up or killed him. Maybe he just
they
left.
beat him up. They never really killed anyone. Like that's a thing. It's like they weren't really like they beat people up.
Yeah,
but
they
never
did.
really killed anyone.
Yeah.
Other than like maybe a few people, like just the pillar men that.
Yes.
And like season 1, Dio is killed again supposedly. And then was 3 some other people die. No, Dio is the only one to die. Yeah, I don't think anyone they didn't kill anyone.
Yeah, except for Dio, which he, well.
Yeah, which surprise if you haven't put one and one together. He's a fucking vampire.
Yep, he can't die. So the other fight that I like, of course, is Jotaro versus Dio. That is Dragon Ball Z level of the and the that
It's
right
so...
there. Fast pacing. It's like it was also strategic too, because when he uses the warudo, the time freezing,
Right.
and when I think Jotaro broke through it using the same thing, right?
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken.
They figure out.
Yeah.
They figure out later that Star Platinum is actually basically just like the world.
Yeah.
Because reasons. So
Yeah.
he's like, oh, then I must be able to stop time too, and slowly he's able to do it.
Yeah. And it's
did like all of it?
the what?
Like all of Diamond is Unbreakable Part 4?
You mean with Josuke?
Yeah.
Yes, I did. Yes.
So like the Killer Queen stand, like that's another one that like I really enjoyed.
Yeah.
Cause that one gets like, I almost thought like, okay, they're so screwed now, like the way the stand worked, that basically it rewinded time.
Yeah.
And like it would blow up someone if a secret was exposed or whatever, and I was like, holy shit, this is hard, and like this is an unbeatable stand. I don't see how they can undo it. And then
it was a really hardcore villain. Yes. I can.
Yeah. But I actually I think that was the most tense I felt
yes
in a while. you know,
Mm-hmm.
because like they show one character die, and I'm like, holy fuck,
Yeah, they
man,
did.
this is horrible.
Totally.
This is intense.
Totally intense. So, our time is up. Damn it. But anyways, we will still come back with JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. There's a lot more. It does not end here. There's currently one airing, which is Diamond Wind? Golden Wind. The Golden Wind.
Golden Wind, yeah.
Golden Wind. No.
Golden Arrow or something.
Yeah, something like that. Anyways,
I don't think it's Venti because Venti's 20, but
yes.
something like that.
So anyway, guys, thank you for being in this episode. So stay tuned for the next episode, and please don't forget to favorite, rate, comment, and subscribe. Thank you for supporting the channel. This has been Zyberpunky.
This is Shinja from Karibu Kai Play.
And we'll see you guys later.